Hello and welcome to Viewpoint. We're pleased today to be able to interview Tracie Riggs, who is the Deputy CAO of the Office of Emergency Services here in Tuolumne County. Welcome again, and my name as your host today is Diane Doddridge. So, hello.
Good afternoon, Diane.
Mrs. Riggs, we know that you're now and have been for some time concerned with residents of the county who have found that their wells, because of this awful drought, have ceased to function as they should. And incidentally, I just wanted to add that the day we're videotaping this is a nice rainy day that we're all loving, and it's long overdue as far as most of us are concerned.
It is.
However, adequate rain is not going to solve the problem of all these wells going dry. First of all, I will have some questions for you about where you're finding most of these wells.
Okay. So what we found so far in Tuolumne County is the wells are located in Jamestown, Tuolumne City, Tuttletown area. And what we further found is by our GIS coordinator had overlaid our mining on the mother lode. And what we, very interestingly enough, is that those same areas which were most heavily mined are where we are finding the most significant impact of the drought. So the most of the dry wells are located in those areas.
And you're sure that's not coincidental? It's because of the wells themselves, but we're not really sure why?
We really don't know why. It was just it was something that our environmental health director and GIS coordinator were kind of wondering, and so part of what they're wondering about, the science behind that, is when they were mining, they had these big caverns that were created. So as they mined, they were blasting, and so now there's these big caverns that have been filling up with water now. Now with the drought, those caverns are no longer filled with water, so therefore if any of those wells were either pulling from those caverns or were pulling from fractures provided within those caverns, so those caverns provided water to the fractures in their wells. Is there a correlation? We don't know. We don't have enough of the equipment to really look underground and see what's going on. Not. But we keep looking at trying to figure out a way, is there any type of pattern, and that so far is the only pattern we have found, is that there are more wells, dry wells, located in the areas in which we had the most heavy mining taking place.
And of course, there was a great deal of mining that went on for years and years.
There was.
Here, so.
Yes, there was.
Folks who feel that they're threatened by their wells not producing as they should have some options.
They do.
They can try to drill another well.
They can.
And you're finding that is happening with some people?
We do have some people who have drilled other wells. Some of them have deepened them. Some have been very successful, some have not. We have had some people who have drilled new wells or deepened them and did not hit any additional water. New wells, maybe 1 to 3 gallons per minute, if that, and we've gone deeper. As I had mentioned to you in a different conversation, we actually had one who went deeper and they hit salt water that had the same amount of salt as what you would find in the ocean.
Amazing.
We have no idea why, and environmental health director Rob Kosleby went out there and he confirmed it. It's absolutely as salty as what you would find in the ocean. Very strange.
My goodness. And it's very costly.
It is very costly. Drilling a well in Tuolumne County, because we have fractured rock up here, it's not the same as drilling in the sand. So they have to have very heavy-duty equipment. The cost of drilling a well in Tuolumne County with all of your equipment and everything you need to have a fully functional well can run $25,000 to $40,000. So it's a very significant amount of money for a family.
As I mentioned to you before this program, we drilled a well many, many years ago, 30-some years ago when we built our home, and it was $10,000 to $15,000. So that just shows what's happened in the few years since then. My goodness. So a lot of people can't afford to do that.
There's quite a few families who can't afford.
Right.
They don't have that option.
Right. So what is another option then? Because people need water.
They do need water. So you may or may not know, in February 2014, the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors declared a local state of emergency due to drought conditions. Then in September of 2014, the governor issued an executive order that issued and approved what's called CDAA, or California Disaster Assistance Act funding. This funding provides the mechanism for counties to go in and one of the first times in history provide services to individuals. This is something that has never been done in history.
This is new.
This is brand new. This was the governor and his team really trying to find a way that they could help those homeowners. So what counties have done is we, as the operational area, we go out and we work with a private nonprofit. In this case, we're working with ADCA. Mm-hmm. We partner with them, and we have a general contractor, Jeff Mankey, has been amazing. And we go out and we do assessments. So we have a program in which we can install temporary tanks, and that those tanks, then we have potable water delivered to them and brought right into their home.
And I've heard about these tanks. They're large black tanks that hold how much water?
So most often the tanks are 2,500 gallons. We allocate 50 gallons of water per person per day. There are some strict guidelines there. This water can only be used for health and sanitation, and that's difficult up here. There's a lot of people who have animals. They have outdoor activities of one sort or another, and we have to let them know that this water is only for health and sanitation. So if they run out of water before their time because they're out watering their lawn or doing anything with their livestock, we cannot bring them more water. They have to live within, or they could buy it themselves. And some have bought extra water when they, it's holidays, families coming, graduations this last year. So people have contacted us and actually said, I will have 10 more people on my home. And we've said, but this we can't do it. But we have given them approval to go ahead and buy additional water while they have that company there. So.
Oh, I see. From the company that delivers it.
Right. We only allow potable water, a licensed potable water hauler to deliver. There's only two, I think there's actually 3 in Tuolumne County. At the time, we only had 1 when we first started. Then there was another, and we just recently had a third that was added.
I saw one of those trucks around recently.
Yeah, there's a few of them running around. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we need them.
Yes. Thank goodness. It takes a special kind of truck.
It does. They have to be certified. They have to go through, and they have an inspection of the truck. The driver also has to go through certain certifications. So not everyone can do it, and people need to make sure that what they're getting is potable water. We did have an issue, and you may have read about it in the papers several months ago. What we'd found when we go out, some people will already have a tank. If they already have a tank, we will actually go out, and if their well is dry, we will, if we can, use the tank that they have. But before we do, we'll rinse out and sanitize it. When they went out, this individual said she'd been buying water, and what we found in their tank was definitely not potable water. And so we don't know if she'd asked for potable water or just thought when she asked to have her tank filled that she would get potable water. But then we had an education campaign going out as to what the difference between potable and non-potable water. And so we're hoping that people understand that now. It's very important if you're going to consume the water that it be potable.
Isn't there another option? Aren't you hooking up to TUD in some areas, if that's a possibility?
We are.
How does that work?
A couple of different ways. There are some where there is a water main that already goes down close to their home, in which we only have to have the public lateral, which brings the water from the main and puts in a meter, so that all they have to do is then just bring them. Essentially, they have some plumbing and they connect right up to it. Those are much easier. They have to be, the water main's already there. It's
how close?
I don't even know. I couldn't give you the feet. Usually they're within a few hundred feet. Yeah. So it can, because the funding that we
fairly accessible.
Yes. So mm-hmm. So the water main might run right down your road, and say your road could be, let's say we don't have it all the way down Tuolumne, but if you're in Tuolumne Road and your house is right on Tuolumne Road, that's a perfect example. You may have had a well, but you never connected. Now we can come in, working with State Water Board, Department of Water Resources. They pay almost the entire cost for this homeowner to connect. Now there's a secondary type of projects that we do, and we're working on one actually right now in the Jamestown area. And that is where we get a water main extension. And we've done this twice before. We did one at Campo Seco and over in Douglasville Mine Road. We've connected 27 homes permanently. So that in the past, we're working on another 45 right now. And the one in Jamestown, we would actually extend the water main about 3/4 of a mile. And it would take it from Carly Lane all the way, loop around a different area, and then stop at Jacksonville Road. And that's something that doesn't currently exist. And again, we're looking at, tomorrow we have a public forum for that, so we can gauge the interest in it. And then we're hoping for a second project that would take it from that point at Jacksonville all the way down to Stent, so that we could get to those homes down there who are also experiencing well outages.
I'm sure they are. And funding for that?
The funding is, again, through its drought funding that the governor has made available through the State Department of Water Resources and the State Water Board. And it's been phenomenal. TUD has been a great partner, and they have actually been able to get the cost for these homeowners, for some, to get a full connection down below $500.
Oh my goodness.
And that's through, just being very careful, doing the work that they do, and also the bidding that they're able to get in place. So it's been fantastic.
Good partners.
They've been fantastic partners. We couldn't have done this without them.
That's a good word for them.
They well deserve it. I don't know what we do. That's one of the things when you're in emergency services is you're not a specialist. We coordinate, and that's what we do. So you're bringing everyone together, and water is very specialized. And if you want people to be healthy while they're drinking it, you need to make sure that it's treated and it has everything in it should, and nothing that it shouldn't.
Right,
and so,
that's right.
We had, like I said, TUD, and then Twain Harte Community Services District also sat in on our group that we have and helped to give us advice on how should we proceed, what is the right way to do it, do we treat the water, all of those types of questions that I could have never answered myself.
Well, it's nice to have partners, and particularly in a case like this where you need all that expertise.
Absolutely.
You have to draw from all that. I wonder, just as a last question about these dry wells or potential dry wells, if most people have some idea of where that water comes from that's in their well, in that there are pockets of, maybe you can explain this a lot better than I, pockets of rock. You mentioned the fractured rock, where there are areas that water could accumulate. It comes down from melted snow. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, snowpack is what gives most of us in California our water. It helps to fill our reservoirs. Surface water fills with water, and then what keeps it full is the runoff from our snow. Fractured rock it's very interesting, and when you get in the valley, you have all these sand basins essentially. So
and the aquifers.
The aquifers. So as our environmental health director says, you can put a straw anywhere in there, and you're going to get the same amount of water that comes out. When you do fractured rock, that's not the case. You have really live fractures within your granite that allows, when you drill a hole down in there, different fractures feed into that. And whether or not they're good fractures, it allows the water to flood into that well. Sometimes you drill a well and you don't hit anything, and sometimes you drill a well and you hit, some people have 30, 40 gallons a minute coming in. And it's not always based on the depth of the well. We have some that are 300 feet that pump much better than one that's 900 feet.
I know.
It's
amazing.
And the concern with what we have with our wells here is what I'm being told by those who study water is that we can't expect that it takes a while for them to get to the point where they go dry. Sometimes when a well goes dry, some of those fractures can seal up the minerals in there because there's no longer flowing water to keep it going. They can seal up. Some of them may never come back. And some of them it could take several years. So we may have lots of water, rain, and snow this summer, and then they could still be 2 years out before we see any type of recharge for them. So we really don't know, and that's kind of like when they say when weather forecaster for 10 days. We don't know,
and a hoping game.
It is.
There's so many people that I know who have wells, and all winter, all summer, spring, well, for the last 4 years, have just hoped that the well holds up. And of course, most everybody, at least that I know of, is conserving.
Yes.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah, everyone has been fantastic. Tuolumne County is amazing, as it always is during an emergency.
That's right.
And then today I actually made a phone call to the Public Assistance Officer at Cal OES asking them, are you hearing any kind of scuttle or rumors about the governor bringing this program to an end for drought? And he said absolutely not. He recognizes the same thing that we all do, that there are some areas, and they think that the valley will be very much like this as well. It will take a long time to see recharge. So that's kind of nice, because there are people, as we talk about this being a temporary water assistance program, how long is temporary? We don't know, but we do know that he's not talking about ending it anytime soon. And originally he told us at least through June of this next fiscal year, so of 2016. And I expect we'll see that go further out as well.
I think you're right. Even if we happen to have the huge El Nino year that everyone's talking about, wishing comes, even if we have that, it's not going to break this drought.
I don't think
It's going
so.
to take a lot.
Yeah, and El Ninos, you probably know this, are not many people think are a weather system, and they're not. They're just some warm water,
that's right.
and they affect our climate, and unfortunately, it makes it warmer. So, which
Yes.
means we probably would have less snow than we might have had otherwise. But at this point, I think we're all very thankful for any type of moisture that we get.
I think we're all ready to stay indoors and not maybe recreate quite as often as we did before, if that's what it takes.
Yes.
We'll all do that. Thanks so much for filling us in about the water situation. I did want to speak with you just for a little bit before we go about what's happening with our dead and dying trees because, again, of the drought. Mm-hmm. And I know there's so many people that are worried about it. I know right on Phoenix Lake Road, not too far from me, there's a house that I worry about because there's a dead tree right next to it. Mm-hmm. And it's a pine tree, and if it comes down, it's going to come right on that house. Yeah. So you were telling me beforehand that PG&E is doing something about this for one area that's being treated by them. So maybe you could fill us in a little bit about.
Yeah, we talk about partners. PG&E's been another fantastic partner. They are not just doing it here in Tuolumne County, but they're doing it all across the Sierras. So here in Tuolumne County, as I was saying, my husband and I went up last weekend, and we were taking some pictures so that we could put it in with the report I was preparing. And up along Leisure Pines and Sugar Pine RV, there are trees down everywhere. Most of those trees have been taken down by PG&E. So they're looking right now at anything that would threaten their primary lines. And then they will also remove trees that threaten secondary lines that support more than one structure. So they're doing it at no cost to the homeowner. The only drawback, and again, they're getting them off, they're getting them down, so they're not looking at falling on public safety is no longer an issue, or public infrastructure, but they're all laying on the ground. We have thousands of trees laying on the ground, and so that is definitely an issue.
That's the landowner's responsibility then to take care of the felled tree once it's down.
Once it's down. And then the other trees, really as private landowners, we're always responsible for our own property, right? We own it, we're supposed to take care of it. You just don't expect at times like this that we are seeing people with half an acre lot having to cut down almost every single tree on their lot. I mean, 40 trees.
That is a fire.
And so they have lots that are essentially clear cut, and you have logs laying everywhere. And what do you do with them? Where do you take them? And it's a little overwhelming.
Is the sawmill interested?
They are.
At all?
We have spent quite a bit of time on the phone with SPI and Ultra Power and American Wood Fibers. All three are absolutely, again, talk about partners willing to step up and do what they can with us. So
but they're limited.
They are definitely limited. Well, SPI especially, they're still taking wood from the rim fire.
Right.
So they're inundated. They thought they'd be able to start taking wood maybe January. Mm-hmm. However, American Wood Fibers and Ultra Power are willing to take whatever we can take to them. We just have to get it there. So hauling will be very expensive. But we can't leave this wood lying there for next summer. So we need to figure out a way to get the wood off of the ground and to one of these two locations. Ultra Power, of course, uses it for power. And then the wood fibers, they ship it all over the world for shavings. And so they've been absolutely, I was just on the phone with them today, and they're all still willing to help in any way that they can. So.
Would you take just a moment before we close here and explain, I know it hasn't gone very far, but you have had some talks with people in Sacramento about this.
We have. So as I mentioned, on Monday, a group of us went down to the governor's office and met with some key staff and the governor's staff, and there's us and other counties, and we talked about what our small counties are experiencing. And what we were trying to bring home to this group is, what is it like in rural areas, meaning in Sacramento, you don't have the pine trees all over everyone on top of their homes, but when you come up into areas such as this, we do. And when you go south of us, it's even worse. A tree kill south of us is significantly conversation. We were able to relay that to them. And the senior advisor to the governor was there. He was great. He asked all the right questions. He was compassionate. He was empathetic and wanted to help make a difference. He had let us know that on Monday afternoon that they're within a few days that the governor would be issuing an executive order. They just didn't know what it looked like yet. And on Friday at 11:30, I received an email from him that at noon they would be announcing that the governor was indeed issuing that executive order. There's a lot of language in this executive order. I believe it's 4 pages long. There's a lot of exemptions that we'd all ask for so that we're able to streamline and go right to it. He did put a lot of those in there that we asked for. He also did authorize the same type of funding we're using for drought, which is CDAA, and that allows us to go in and start, gives the funding essentially. So we will partner with the fire safe councils here locally. They are all retired foresters, loggers, people who work in the industry. This is their specialty. And we just don't know how quickly we'll be able to get to that. It takes some time to roll a program out like this at the state level, and they have to figure out what do all of these exemptions mean, how do they apply those, and then get that out to the locals, and then we also have to develop plans, get those approved, and go through the process. So
it's in the works.
It is. We're very excited. This was something we've been working on for a while, and so when I got that email, I know I wasn't the only one in there just kind of doing the little happy dance.
Right.
But the governor is very empathetic to what everyone is experiencing. Otherwise, he would have never issued that executive order.
Well, we're all in this together.
We are.
How do you see that happening here in this county when and if there is funding to do that? Will you round up loggers, or how does I'm obviously know nothing about it.
I keep saying that doing the tree mortality program will be kind of like drought on steroids, and they kind of laugh at me, but it's definitely it's so much bigger. We have a few hundred dry wells, while we have several thousand homeowners affected. That's a big difference. So what we first have to do is partner with someone, which will be the Fire Safe Council, who have all those contacts we need.
Incidentally, I'd like to give them a little shout out since you've mentioned them twice now. I worked with them to get a fire break through our area, and because I had lived there so long, I knew the neighbors and knocked on their doors, and because they do have to sign
a waiver
so that it can be done on their property. And everyone who did sign the waiver, and I must say there are a couple who were reluctant and refused to do it and had to pay on their own later, which they found out they had to do, and I'm sure that was a shock. But the Fire Safe Council was wonderful, and when I was working, I don't want to mention his name, but he was an assistant Forest Service supervisor, and is retired, as you said. I mentioned that after all the work, helping him put this wonderful fire break down from Big Hill Road down to Phoenix Lake Country Club Estates, I said we didn't really benefit from it because we're on the side of the hill and it's up above us. And I said, what you need to do is go to the road down below us. And he did.
Oh,
and
nice.
he came back and he said, it's worse than this one.
Oh.
So they did that one.
Nice.
A fire break down there. And that was wonderful.
They've done amazing work.
They do.
Yep, they do amazing work. They're really going to be, like I said, with water, we had to tap into the water specialist. With this, we need to tap into all the tree, timber, logging. So we'll do exactly the same type of thing. We go in, we will have contracts that will run through them. We'll look for foresters. We will partner also with CAL FIRE because they have all the resources as well to help identify and prioritize. We do expect we'll go into areas in which PG&E has already been to, since they already have an immense amount of trees down. We can go out and identify additional trees that need to be removed from those areas, so we're only going there once. Most likely we'll go there more than once because we're going to see that the bark beetle is going to continue to affect other trees. But I'd like to get where we can. Yeah, when we do remove, it's why we'll have arborists and foresters who will identify and prioritize for us. But looking at not just dead, but those that are already dying. So let's just remove those and get them off of the property. But it's definitely...
I'm worried about a couple of hours.
It's going to be a stark landscape when we finish with a lot of this, and it will take years to get everything replanted.
It's like a fire.
It is. It's very much like a fire, and has the potential to cause as much catastrophic damage. It just is a little bit slower, not quite as fast moving.
Was your office involved at all in the rim fire?
Oh, absolutely. We lived it and breathed it. Yeah, we kind of closed down up here for about 3 weeks and lived in the EOC. And we're just now finalizing that federal declaration and getting that paperwork completed.
My goodness.
So everything takes a little bit of time.
And it's over 2 years now.
It is. In fact, I'm still working on something from 2011, a windstorm that we had, and that one's just getting closed out. So it takes some time for It's Cal OES has to go through their monitoring, and they've been a little busy these last few years, and so we make sure you get what you need, and the monitoring kind of comes last because they move on to the next emergency. So the problem is when they do get to it, you have to go back and thinking, oh my goodness, that's 4 years ago. We've been through quite a few more
How long
emergencies.
have you been in this office?
I've been in this office for 4 years.
And so you have a long memory of things that have occurred in those 4 years.
Well, we've had a
Probably
lot in
2
the
or
last
3
4
years
years.
from now, we'll still be talking about these trees that.
Oh, I think we absolutely will be.
You know?
It will take more than a year to go out and do this work. It will take multiple years.
Well, we want to thank you and your office for all your efforts and connections and collaboration that you've done. I know all the citizens in this county who happen to see this will be, they'll be educated anyway about what your office does, because we see these names, Office of Emergency Services, and we think,
What is that?
what is that?
Yeah.
But now we know it's in depth and it affects many of us. Many of us.
It does.
So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane.
That's it for today. We've spoken with Tracie Riggs. There is one thing I want to make sure, and that is that folks know the telephone number here, and maybe perhaps even an email address, so that they might, if they have the need, they know how to contact you.
Okay, so the first point of contact for the WELL program is to contact Rob Koslevy. He's at Environmental Health, and that phone number is 209-533-5633. And there's a web page as well. So if you go to ptolemacounty.gov and you log on to our OES page, individuals will find several links there in which they can contact us. And my picture and my email is right on there if anyone wants to find me.
Thank you. That's Viewpoint for today. See you next time.